First, I want to make the statement here that Kingston has yet again achieved the status of the world's #1 SSD and memory brand in the market. Yes, that is something years of research, manufacturing, experience, supply, customer sales and support makes it happen. Now we head on to the latest offering from Kingston, the Fury Renegade Gen 4 NVMe SSD with heatsink. Yes, it is the same fantastic Fury Renegade SSD, but this time it is a tad bit faster thanks to the beefy heatsink that comes pre-applied on the SSD. Now you ask, why this one over the non-heatsink version? Well, it may not make that much of a difference, but it does give that slight edge over performance between the two, because if you take a good look at most motherboard SSD heatsinks, or shall I call them pieces of metal covers, it is just self-explanatory. That is, if you have an idea about how heatsinks work. If you don't, let's quickly go through that. A heatsink is basically a piece of metal that dissipates heat into the air from an object that touches it using conduction. Conduction is a process where heat travels from the hotter source to the colder source when both sources are in contact with each other. Of course, there is something called as a thermal paste or thermal pad, which is basically a medium applied between the hot and the cold object. This is because both the surfaces may have imperfections, and this helps to fill in those air gaps or uneven surface so heat is effectively transferred. Now, the major heat sinks all across various applications have something called fins. I'm sure you have seen CPU air coolers which usually have fins on them, and the reason for these fins is to be able to increase the surface area of the heatsink so more heat can be dissipated and the rate of cooling is faster and efficient. So more the number of fins, better the cooling. As far as this Fury Renegade SSD heatsink is concerned, it has been designed to have as much as possible surface area for cooling passively in that small size. This means that this SSD will also remain cool in tighter places such as the Sony PlayStation 5, where it totally fits in well and gives you quite the gaming experience on it. In fact, this SSD has also been designed to match the requirements of the PS5. Okay, now let's unbox the one that we have, which is the Kingston Fury Renegade 1TB Gen 4 NVMe M.2 SSD with heatsink. Yes, I know it's a lot. Comes in a nice box like this, and after opening it we see the SSD in its packaging, and yeah, we have unboxed it. This SSD is available in capacities in 500GB, 1TB, 2TB and 4TB. This SSD comes with the latest Phison E18 Gen 4 X4 controller with 3D TLC NAND. This SSD comes with 5-year warranty and 1000 TBW endurance, which means you can use this much longer. Now looking closely, the SSD has a nice matte black finish heatsink with Fury Renegade written on it, and it doesn't hurt your fingers when you hold it. Now the height of the heatsink is decently slim, so installation on devices such as the PS5 and smaller PCs should not be a problem at all. So let's jump into the performance of this SSD and compare it with its non-heatsink version and actually see the difference. Please note that the non-heatsink version has still a heatsink applied over it, which comes with the motherboard, so we're actually going to see the results between how both heatsinks perform. Okay, as far as the Crystal Dismark scores that you see on your screen, the SSD without the heatsink is performing 7371, while the one with the heatsink is given the score of 6426, which is kind of absurd because both of them actually do have the heatsink on, but the first one is factory fitted. In the right, you still see the difference. It's pretty much the same. In sequential 1NQ1T1, again you see the scores a little bit lower as compared to the one without the heatsink in both read and write. Now the game changes a bit over here. If you see random 4K, you see that the one with the pre-applied heatsink is 937.50, while the one without the heatsink is 922. So it's not much of a difference there, but there is a significant difference. Similarly, in the right, we see the scores is 801 and 656 in the heatsink and non-heatsink respectively, and in random 4K Q1T1 it's kind of pretty much similar with scores of 76 and 76.23 and 76.97. In the right, again, it's slightly above 288.26 and 277.34. So as far as read and write speeds are concerned, it's kind of like very similar to each other. Now moving on to 3D Mark time spy. As you can see, again, the overall score is pretty much similar between both of them. The graphics score is again similar. The CPU score again is similar. The storage benchmark score is also similar. Now moving on to PC Mark 10, which is basically a test where it scores the average performance of the PC based on the SSD. Again, we see here very cut-to-cut scores, very much similar to each other. Total score, essentials, productivity. Digital content creation, in photo editing there's a slight advantage. Rendering and visualization is also the same, and video editing is pretty much the same. So this is kind of gives us a sort of a conclusion that there's not much difference between the two. However, one comes with the heatsink and one comes without the heatsink. So you can use either of them. If your motherboard doesn't have a heatsink, then use the one with the heatsink. Gives you good performance. If the motherboard comes with the heatsink, apply that heatsink, so it gives you the same performance. So based on these results, we can say that you can use either of the SSDs in your gaming PC. But personally, if I had a choice, I would go with the heatsink version as it looks much cooler, and factory fitted things are always preferable in my opinion. However, for PlayStation 5, it is better to use the heatsink version because of the limited airflow present in the M.2 mounting slot inside the PlayStation 5. So now that you know about this product, do you want to know how much does it cost and where to buy this? So the market price for the Fury Renegade 1TB Gen4 NVMe SSD with heatsink is around 10,500 rupees at the time and depends on online and offline retailers. However, we have also listed the purchase link in the video description below where you can buy this at a really good price. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to bringing you more videos to make your PC building experience a whole lot better.